Before you get started, I recommend that you write on the back of your paper your name, because once we have pastel on the front of our artwork, it's kind of tricky to flip your paper over without getting pastel everywhere. These are the colors that you're going to want to have at the ready for this tutorial, so you may want to take a moment to find something that looks like these colors or very, very close. I'm going to start this drawing with a horizon line that divides the sky from the ocean. And this is basically the top of the waves as they go into the distance. I'm using a ruler and a pencil to lightly sketch a level line, and you won't really notice the pencil later as we go on. For the first few steps, these are the colors that you're going to want to have ready. I have a true orange, kind of like a pumpkin orange, a much yellower version of orange that I'll fondly call mac and cheese, a bright lemony yellow, and a white. Starting with the white, I am going to do the very center of what will be a sun. So make a small little circle just above the pencil line. I'm almost touching the pencil line, but not quite. Make a little circle of white, and you may need to blend it with your finger and go over it a couple times to make it opaque enough to block out that black paper. Then, choose your yellow, and we are going to go around that white circle in sort of a lemon shape. So it's a little bit oblong, a little oval from side to side, and I'm stopping above the pencil line. I am not drawing below the pencil line with the yellow. Want to put down plenty of yellow on here so that it also is more opaque against the black paper. And go in with your fingertip and blend the white and the yellow together. You may need to put a little extra white on top of the yellow in order for them to connect and smoothly fade into one another. Next, I'm going to use my mac and cheese color, and I am going to fill in some of the sky above the pencil line next to the sun, but I'm not filling the entire area with this. I'm kind of doing random splotches that are going to represent a cloudy sky. So I have some of this mac and cheese in different scribbles, but all are above the pencil mark. You may need to use your yellow to fade that lemon shape into the mac and cheese by kind of outlining that one more time and then using your fingers to blend them into one another. I am sweeping my fingertips across the pastel so that it blurs together and spreads out the powder. Next, I'm going to take my true orange. It's that deeper orange that's more like pumpkin orange or the fruit orange. And I'm going to fill in any of the gaps in this stripe here that was not filled in with the mac and cheese. Then take your fingers and sweep across the orange and the mac and cheese areas so that the marks disappear from how you applied the pastel and it smears into kind of a solid hazy sky. For our next section, you're going to want a red or sort of a raspberry color, a fuchsia, which is like a hot pink, but it's kind of in the purple spectrum, violet, blue, it's like a true blue, a royal blue or an ultramarine, and black. Starting with our fuchsia, we are going to go above the orange section of the sky, and we're going to fill in sort of an arc shape. It's kind of curved along the top, but I am not going all the way to the top of my page. There's maybe an inch or an inch and a half from the top of the page. Kind of fill that in with some fuchsia scribbles, and we will be blending it later. Okay, now you want to take your finger and sort of swirl across the fuchsia and into the orange mac and cheese area so that you blend the sky and it spreads the fuchsia pastel out across the page. Next, I'm going to use my true blue, and I'm basically going to fill in the rest of the page. So the upper left corner and the upper right corner around that curved fuchsia area, filling in that and covering up any of the bare paper that remains. So scribble in some true blue and be ready to blend these one more time. If you need to, you can take your fuchsia and again at the edges of the fuchsia and the blue along that border add just a little bit more pastel. This will assist with the blend, and it's also going to help give us the effect that there's kind of a cloudy sky happening. Swipe with your fingertips across the pastel, blending and smoothing it across the page. You don't need it to be a perfect arc in that shape that was the original fuchsia area. And in fact, a little bit of blotchiness is going to make it seem more realistic, and we don't want a hard edge between the blue and the fuchsia. We want them to be kind of hazy. Next, you're going to use the black, and we're going to darken the very corners of our sky so that it's fading out into nighttime. So just a few scribbles of black along the outer corners. Black is a very strong color, so you won't need much of it. A couple scribbles, and then take your finger and swipe across that, fading it into the blue. Again, make sure that it's a very smooth fade between the colors. You don't want a harsh edge that is like a crisp shape. Now would be a great time to stop and clean your fingers off so that you don't get the black, the blue, the fuchsia, the orange, all that's probably on your fingers and very dark and muddy right now. You don't want to get that elsewhere on your page. So take a wet paper towel and maybe a little bit of soap and clean off your fingers before we go to the next stage. Starting with the violet, we are going to be making some clouds. So scribble some poofy clouds. Make sure they're kind of random, not perfect little scallops. And I am scribbling a couple cloud shapes in the sort of fuchsia region of my drawing. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to be showing you all of the cloud steps on another piece of paper so that the plain black background makes it easier to see what I'm doing. So I'm scribbling in my cloud shapes with the base violet. You can have 2 clouds, 3 clouds, whatever shape you want, but just make sure they're kind of random with a few tufts of cloud here and there. Take your finger and smudge across the violet. Blend it and get rid of all the scribble marks from your pastel. Now these clouds are going to have a strong highlight from below, which is the sun, and we are going to be accenting the edges of the cloud closest to the light source. So I'm going to take red, or you could use a raspberry color, and I'm going to make sort of C-shaped dashes on top of my purple clouds. These are the puffs in the cloud that the light is hitting, and they're being accentuated by the light. They're kind of going to appear as a red or a raspberry color. I'm making several little dashes sort of side by side for each of these edges that I'm highlighting. And I'm not just highlighting the outermost edge of my clouds, I'm also picking a few areas inside my purple cloud to represent the puffs of the cloud and those layers of them. So these are all kind of from the left side. And then you want to take your finger and very lightly tap and gently smear those highlights, but don't completely blend them away. You want them to still be sort of distinct. So I'm just barely tapping my finger and with just a little bit of a push. We're going to continue these highlights on our clouds with an orange, and I am going to make some more of these accents more along the bottom of the cloud. So the red marks were kind of on the left side of my cloud, and now this orange is making little dashes along the bottom puffs of the cloud. Again, they're sort of C-shaped dashes, and I'm doing several at a time and then very lightly tapping them, sort of smearing, smudging them with my fingertip. Next, I'm going to use black, and I'm going to contrast with the light source that we just accented. So if the light is from the bottom left, the top right is going to be the darkest area of the cloud. So I'm making more of these little dashed marks in the upper right areas of my cloud, sort of representing the edges of the cloud and any of the puffs that are on those clouds. Take your finger and lightly smear/tap over those marks so that they're kind of hazy and soft and part of the cloud. Next, take your mac and cheese color, and we are going to put the brightest section of the highlights on the bottom areas of the clouds. So we had the shadows with the black and the sort of highlights with the red and the orange. And now at the very, very edge of these puffs, I'm making a very skinny, very small accent of the mac and cheese. And this represents the strongest area of the light hitting the clouds. Before you blend the mac and cheese accents on the clouds, you probably want to make sure that your fingers are clean because this is our brightest color and we just finished using some black. So make sure that your fingers don't have black on them before you lightly tap and gently smear that little bit of mac and cheese accent on the bottom edge of your clouds. For this final highlight on our clouds, the small mac and cheese marks, you can either barely tap with your fingertip to blend them very gently, or you may opt to use a Q-tip as a more controlled way to blend these very small areas of our drawing. Sometimes our fingers are just a little too big and can blend out the area too much. So the Q-tip is a small shape that allows us to keep more precision in our blending. When you're done with your clouds, make sure that you take a moment to clean off your fingertips before moving to the next step. For the next step, I'm going to start with white. Directly below the core of our sun, you want to start with a vertical line that goes just about to the bottom of the page. Draw a line and then go over it with sort of a zigzag motion, a left to right horizontal zigzag that creates a tapered line wider where it meets the sky and that comes more to a point at the bottom of the page. Next, pick up your yellow, and we will be repeating this process on the left side and the right side of this white. So I'm scribbling left to right, sort of a zigzag. It's a little bit wider right beneath the sun and where it meets the sky, and it gets more to a point at the bottom of the page. I am not blending these steps yet. Pick up your mac and cheese color as our next one and repeat the step. As I do each of these steps, I'm trying to keep kind of a flat line where the sky meets the water because we are creating the reflections underneath the sun. Scribble back and forth, still making sort of an arrow shape, and make sure that your fingers are clean before we do a blend. This next part, you're going to blend from the inside out. We're going to push this white core of the highlight into the yellow and then into the mac and cheese. And you want to always start at the middle and push outward. You don't want to push the mac and cheese color inward because it would overpower that white reflection. Sweep your fingers across until you have sort of an ombre fade. We're going to continue the reflection with some stronger, deeper colors, starting with our orange, the sort of pumpkin orange, not the mac and cheese. Scribble on the left and the right side of our reflection as the sun's light is fading outward into what will be our ocean. Scribble our zigzags And then we're going to pick up fuchsia as our next color. Pick up fuchsia and repeat. At this point, I'm just about to the edge of my page on the left, though I still have some space on the right-hand side. Make sure you do not go too far to the right because we're going to have an island in the bottom right corner of our drawing. Pick up our true blue, the royal blue, and I am done on the left-hand side, so I'm just going to fill any remaining space with that blue. And then on the right, I'm going to fill in most of the space, but you want to leave sort of a curved line for where the beach and our island is going to be. Fill in the rest of that space with the blue. Now that I have the orange, the fuchsia, and the blue in place, I'm going to do some blending again. And I'm also blending from the inside out. And you may need to switch to different fingers so that you don't have blue whenever you go back towards the brightest reflection. Don't contaminate the orange colors with the blue because blue and orange make brown. You don't want muddy water. After you get a satisfying fade in our watercolors, you want to make sure that you clean up your horizon line. It may be a little muddied or it might not be completely level. So I'm picking this orange and I'm crispening up my horizon line so it's a straight line that meets the sky and shows where the sky meets the water. For some of our final steps, I'm going to pick up some of my other colors again, like fuchsia or orange, and I'm going to very lightly drift back and forth across my image, making small little dashes. They're sort of short horizontal lines, very straight lines, not curved lines, and these represent the light reflecting off of the movement in the waves. Short little dashes, lots of them, in the colors that we used in the water, so that it's like the light comes out from the sun and it sparkles on the movement of the waves. I like to pick up the white one more time before I finish this and just make sure that the very core of the reflection of the sun is the brightest part of the image in case it got a little bit muddied in our blending. When you're ready to move on, pick up a brown and fill in that curved shape in the bottom right side of your drawing. This is going to be an island, so we're just going to put some dirt in there. And this will be blended, but we're going to darken the corner. This is kind of shadowy over there, farther from the sun. So scribble a little bit of black over the brown in the right-hand corner. I'm going to make it very dark, dramatic lighting so that we can have a tree silhouette, but it's so dark and the lighting is very dramatic from the left, so we won't be able to see a whole lot of what's on the island. It's just kind of a dark shape. So blend that so the edge of the island is brighter and the corner of the page is darker. The final step is to add some palm trees, and I'm going to use a charcoal pencil for this more precise step. Sketch the trunk of your tree as a sort of curved line I'm going to have my palm tree tipping outward. It's kind of heavy with the palm fronds. So I've got a little bit of curve to this, and then I'm broadening the line with the charcoal pencil, but I'm not getting fatter than the pencil itself. The thickness is still pretty skinny so that the proportions of the tree are recognizably a palm tree. Both of these palm tree trunks come to a point at the end in the sky and then get broader as they reach the ground. They need a stronger base for their root system to anchor it into the island. Now, from the point of each of my palm tree trunks, I'm going to draw lines that go outward, kind of like a spider's legs. The skinny lines that form kind of a star shape from the point outward, and they all curve downward, kind of like a firework. each of these lines has a little bit of a curve towards the bottom of my page, representing gravity curving the palm fronds on my tree towards the ground.